Boom. We are recording. This is Conscious Growth, episode 24. And today we're talking about everything getting your customers to take action at scale. And we have some interesting topics. One is don't take your clients' words at face value if you're working with people as a contractor and agency. Why contribution margin is the most important valuation metric in DTC e-comm. How product-led growth and some of the changes going on in the world of B2B SaaS might apply to direct-to-consumer marketing. And then how you can find influencers that are already in your customer database. So Austin, which topic do you want to start with?
We'll start with taking your client at face value. I feel like that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a story?
Yeah, story. So yesterday, we've had a new account recently, and the ROAS was pretty terrible when we took it over. So my original assumption was, okay, there's a few things that levers that weren't being pulled, a bunch of low-hanging fruit. So what we have that testing, I'm looking through everything, and I'm like, okay, these are the highest CPMs I've seen like in forever. So I'm like, what is going on here? Previously, the client had mentioned to me a specific demographic that his customers are, both from gender and age. And I took it at face value. Like, of course, he knows his customers. Like, it's a multi-million-dollar business. Like, he's got to understand at least kind of what's going on here. Well, then I started looking at the data, and I started looking at the past few years in Google Analytics to start. And I noticed that's not true at all. It's actually a much wider demographic than we thought, both from men and women, but also from basically 25 to 64 instead of just older demographic. So took that data, went into Facebook and was like, okay, let's see what the CPMs look like historically on the account. What did you know? The demographic that we're targeting right now is insanely expensive. Like 2 to 2.5 times for the CPM what the rest of the demographics that have a very similar click-through rate and a lower CPC actually are.
You said like $100 CPMs, right?
Yeah, $100. Yep. Exactly. So just another reminder that, one, you probably don't know better than Facebook who and where your customers are. I feel like a lot of times it will penalize you when you're just targeting the wrong people. The conversion rate's not high. And it's just like, you're not getting these people. Yep. And two, always double check every single thing, demographic, gender, data, psychographic, about what a user is telling you about their customer, especially when they want it to be a certain person or they've only talked to a specific subset of their buyers. They're like, like I've only talked to older women. So of course, like most of our buyers are older women. That's not true. Especially when you have 10, 20,000 customers, should be able to get a good analysis of kind of like what your actual buyer looks like. And not just who sends in a video, because those will be different people for sure.
Like who's giving the most testimonials and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know this example too, wasn't it like something like 40% of their customers turned out to not even be, like, I know that this person was saying it was older women, like 50 and over women, like 40% plus was like, it turned out to be men, right? Yeah.
40% men. That's not a massive skew. Like I thought it was going to be more like 80% men or 80% women.
Women, yeah.
But it was 40 or 60% women, 40% men. I'm like, okay, cool. We can work with this because men 45 to 55 is the cheapest CPM anyways.
Yeah.
So like we're missing out on a really good audience.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And I know in this case too, you said you had already like had some campaigns that were working far better than what the company's run in the last 3 months.
I just turned on some really old stuff that had full demographic targeting, immediate conversions.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Like wins are that simple sometimes.
Yeah, it is crazy because like, especially I know even last episode we were talking about like cohort analysis, looking at the cash multiplier and the 60, 120 day LTV range for specific products for people for their first time purchases. And like compared to that type of analysis, just looking in your demographics data and Google Analytics or Facebook ads, it's like how much easier is that if it's potential there?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's wild. Also, like, come on, it makes sense, right? Like older demographics of humans on computers and phones probably don't buy as much from the standpoint of like click ad, go purchase. Now, I do know a lot of older humans who get sucked into like the super scammy infomercial things because they're like clicking spam on their Microsoft Edge browser.
Yes.
But what I'm more so referring to is like this subset of people on Meta that are 65 plus in X demographic So X gender in a certain location is not a big audience.
Yeah. I think that over targeting too is just a continual problem in accounts, unless, I mean, none of the media buyers we talk to regularly have this problem, but when people have someone running an account that maybe doesn't have a lot of recent experience, or they have run ads like 5 years ago, the over targeting is a consistent problem. I feel like in accounts with, especially like founders that are still running some of their ads or something, you see this all the time.
For sure. Yeah. I think there's just like a latent belief that like, if you know your customer and you target beauty salons, it's going to work. And I think like the reality is most of the best audiences that I've targeted over the past like 5 years are gone. Mm-hmm. Like they just keep getting rid of all those interests. And why are they doing that? To push you to broad. And why are they doing that? Because they need a larger sample set of data in order to actually let the AI spin up and find you who's a buyer.
Yeah, this is just like our boy Charlie's course, the Facebook ads disruptor, talking about using broad targeting. And that's why that course was great, because he really hammers in the point that you need to allow the machine learning, these platforms to develop to do their job, which requires you to not go over specific on your targeting for the most part.
Yeah, exactly.
I know before this call we were talking about how like this week we were occupied with a lot of new client stuff, onboarding, sales. It does seem like there's been a change in the direct to consumer, the e-comm market. It seems like a lot of people are waiting to see, especially like post iOS 14 and stuff, going into what now a lot of people think are a recession. It feels like a lot of people are waiting to see what would happen with the economy, what would happen with the performance of meta ads specifically and the ads market in general. And it seems like now a lot of people are realizing that if they don't do anything to affect their business, there's not going to be some magical event that causes them to get increased performance on their marketing. And I feel like, especially in the world of DTC marketing, a lot of people are just kind of waiting to see if there's an opportunity coming along that would just present itself. And it seems like people have realized that's not the case. They're going to have to hustle to keep their businesses afloat or grow, or just a lot of businesses we know just keep from shutting down.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, super interesting. I feel like actually, this December has been pretty weird data wise.
Yeah.
But overall, I would say a majority of accounts are seeing like better than last year December performance. Mm-hmm. And I get a feeling that's going to continue to happen, because as people become more hesitant of spending money during quote unquote a recession, others are going to just reap all those rewards. Because it's not like the AI is getting worse. It's not like the algorithm's getting worse. The algorithm is getting better at figuring out who is buying and when they're buying. It's just less people are putting money into that pool. And we could say there's less buyers, but I think the interesting point there is actually there's just more competition. That's how I would look at it, meaning there's more permutations and variations of like a supplement company, of a beverage company, of a XYZ that I think is spreading out funds. But I know we talked about it on the last podcast, which is like Coca-Cola for like ever had like 4% or 6% or something of like monthly income for humans in the US was going to Coke. And it was like through recessions, it was through everything since like that Coke was created in like the 1920s or something.
Yep.
And so, they're seeing layoffs now, of course, but I think that's more so, it's less because people don't have the money to buy Coke, and it's more because people are like, there's like 4 billion options now. Why am I going to buy the shittiest thing on the market? Like, I'll get something else, see what happens.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. There's certain like aspects of people's disposable income where like the relative breakdown of that spend is not going to change too much. People still have to, as long as they're not on the street, people are still going to be buying a lot of certain products.
For sure.
Granted, like in premium CPG, like sure, people might drop some stuff off their list, but in general, I think the people who are buying those products are probably the ones who are pretty addicted to the lifestyle where they're spending a lot of their disposable income on high-end products.
Like Rolex doesn't go out of business during a recession,
Yeah, it is interesting though. It'd be, I wish someone would do like, we need to like go find some meta analysis on the breakdown of disposable income spend on these types of products. I guess luxury consumer goods, but we'll have to link that podcast too. We had that whole section on the cyclical nature of D2C markets. So I guess one of the other ones was this whole piece I did about contribution margin, and I'm going to link to that because I don't want to butcher the breakdown of a normal CPG company's P&L, some of which I had in that article. But the main gist of the article was that contribution margin is the most important metric for most investors to be looking at. So if you're a CPG founder, you want to be paying attention to your contribution margin, which in the article, so I'm quoting it, I have defined as variable profits minus your sales and marketing costs. And this is important in CPG because unlike SaaS, where you build a product and then there's less change in variable costs, most of your, you don't have the change in variable costs associated with things like scaling fulfillment, scaling packaging. There's just a lot of changes in your marginal costs as you start to scale a CPG business. So it's really important to look at your contribution margin, which of course includes the highly variable customer acquisition costs that we're all experiencing right now. But yeah, I'm going to link that article. I'm not going to butcher that breakdown of the P&L. Okay. I got next one.
I got a curveball. I got a curveball because it just popped up. Stop paying podcasters like 10, 20, 50K for podcast slots to like go on their podcast. Just stop doing it. It's not going to pay itself back. I'm just like, I don't know. I keep hearing about tons of like, especially in the health world, like a lot of people just like sell slots to like, hey, you can come on my podcast and it's like $5,000 and then, we'll post a photo and yada, yada. Cool. How much does that work? I don't know. If it's over 15,000, it's probably not worth it unless you can with certainty see the data of like 10 case studies in your sub niche around that exact sale. I don't know. It's just one of those nitpicky things that I keep hearing about. I'm like, if you give me 50K, I should be able to outperform that podcaster unless it's Rogan. If you're like on Joe Rogan or Tim Ferriss or one of these like super high octane sale podcasts, sure, it'll probably work. Skinny Confidential, I know they sell a ton too.
Yeah.
If you're just buying to go on like this doctor's podcast or something like that, I would hesitate and I would get some really good data on the past 10 guests like you and how they performed. Same with buying feed posts for an influencer, IG story or whatever. Like someone was just showing me something that costs like, $5,000 to $10,000 to post. And I'm like, why? I mean, I get there's like 1 million followers, but I don't think they're going to return the value. They just have 1 million. They're an actress. Like,
I feel like this is almost two separate issues though. Like the one I see is like, if you're talking about attributing marketing and sales spend to your P&L and you're blowing it on posts that don't matter, that's a problem.
Yes.
So there's like more efficient ways to spend your money. The one we always promote is like, spend your own time developing an outreach process to get on like highly targeted blogs or working with highly targeted influencers instead of like not wanting to spend the time doing real outreach and just like paying for it. The other one though is like that you seem to be touching on is the quality of what you're paying for. Like how do you vet that when you're thinking about getting people on podcasts or influencers to work with? How do you vet that the quality is going to be there for what you're paying for?
Yeah, I mean, you need the data. You need literal specific data. Like they have to show you case study after case study. And like maybe you get a few referrals too. Hey, can I talk to these 3 people and like see what kind of numbers they saw after they worked with you? Just because like if you can show 100,000 listens per podcast, or you can show 1 million followers.
Yeah, gross metrics don't matter. Yeah.
You can basically charge ridiculous sums of money for something that possibly will not convert at all for anything. So I would just get actual case studies.
Yeah. I was just going to say the easiest one to me seems to be if you have a podcast or an influencer, like an IG influencer you're looking at working with, if you've seen other products in your niche, because we want to look for like niche specific sales data, and you can reach out to anyone associated with that product that knows how the promotions went, even just someone who worked on the marketing. If you don't want to reach out to a potential competitor, there's ways to get an idea of what that data looked like to see if it's going to be worth the money.
100%. Exactly.
That was a good curveball.
Yeah.
I like it. PLG, product-led growth and D2C marketing and influencers in your customer list. What do you want to go with?
We'll just keep on the influencer train for a minute. Okay, so in this same token, and now this doesn't take money, this takes time right now, at least because there's nothing that lets you do it efficiently, would be monitoring your customer list for influencers. And so a few ways to do this. Number one is, of course, like when you see names come through that seem relevant to your niche or an influencer or celebrity that you know, probably look it up, see if the email matches. But 2 would be when you get sales and the email within the name of the person is like a website email. Of course, it's not just like Kathy Jones at gmail.com. It's like at facebook.com. It's like probably look that up to see, is this someone who I should reach out to and try to develop more of a relationship with? Because we've seen this over and over again. Your customers will give you 10 times a better deal on allowing you to do whitelist promotions and working with you to promote the brand than paying that influencer 10 grand to get on their podcast. Every time. Look for your users, scan your database of customers, figure out who is someone who you should be talking to and asking if you can promote through their brand.
Yeah. I know we've seen so many instances of just like crazy influential people on customer lists we wouldn't expect. And it's easier. It's kind of like doing the work for them too, because like generally they want to promote things that they like. For
sure. That was Josh Snow from Snow Teeth Whitening. That was like one of his main things when he started Snow. I don't know how long it took, but then he scanned his customer list. He realized Jessica Alba was one of his customers, and he reached out to her and she was like, yeah, I'd love to work together. It's like, okay, great. Boom. That's what you need. Yeah. Make sure Jessica Alba buys your product, and then look through your customer list and then hit her up.
Yeah. I remember one of the guys we're working with was telling us, I think it was Jimmy, he actually had a great course on like doing micro influencer outreach. Like I think Daniel Snow had a whole course on this.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I think he shut it down, but if I find it, it'll be in the link for this episode.
I don't know. I don't think it's live anymore. That was like 3 years ago at least.
Okay, last topic we had was product-led growth and DTC marketing. This came up. Somebody on LinkedIn shouted out a really influential person in the B2B SaaS marketing space, joking about how product-led growth and D2C is so much different. And they were talking about, I think Viore joggers, saying, I think it was Chase from Pencil was saying Viore joggers are an example of product-led growth because they're so good. People get addicted to them. It's the only joggers they want, etc. And spiritual narcissist joggers. Shout out. But so basically the point of the post was this influential person in B2B SaaS came back and said, product-led growth is a big thing in B2B SaaS right now because the person who's primarily doing the purchasing, that persona and their experience with the brand and the product has kind of changed from dealing with sales rep and their primary experience of the brand being the sales process, working with sales engineers, SDRs, account executives, to the person who's buying, primarily experiencing the company and the brand through the product itself, using it, then telling a purchase manager that that's what they want for their team to use and onboarding that SaaS product. Or I imagine that's what it's like. Haven't been at an enterprise company in a while. She was saying that's the big change, and that's why people are focused on product-led growth, is because it's a change in the way people market. And I kind of do see a parallel in D2C marketing, even though we've always used product-led growth. Product's the most important part in physical products. You can't avoid it. There's no purchasing manager. It's just consumers who want to use the product. But I do think there's a similar change in that products in D2C and consumer packaged goods have changed from just needing really great ads, because everyone experiences, for the most part, some form of advertising. It used to be TV and radio. Now it's all over the internet. And then the product being really high quality. That hasn't changed for as long as people have been selling consumer packaged goods. But what I think has changed is the need to have the experience of the user. A larger portion of that, relatively speaking, the person who's buying the product, a larger portion of their experience has to do with their shopping experience, their fulfillment and unboxing experience, their post-purchase experience, how they're interacting with the company after via all the channels. We always talk about doing retention marketing via multiple channels, like all other companies do. Their customer service. That's really what causes word-of-mouth marketing for a lot of these direct-to-consumer companies, these consumer packaged goods companies, in-store and online, more than just product quality. People want everything. I know the best operators that we've worked with, consumer packaged goods, they have amazing products, amazing packaging, crazy unboxing experience where it's seamless. There's no like messed up packaging. There's none of that. Amazing customer service, great sales, and like special loyalty offers that make the customer feel like they're having an experience all the way through the customer lifecycle, whether it's like a month or 5 years. And so that to me has been a massive change in D2C marketing. What do you think?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think it's start to finish. First touch point, last touch point, and then hopefully not last touch point, because you'll keep reordering if it was a really good last touch point. It's just going to get more and more like that. I know like midday squares, you probably see them everywhere, but they're like killing it on the front end media type stuff. And then the product's great too. I mean, I like the product a lot. I've never got it shipped though, so I don't know what that looks like. But I'm seeing like certain businesses optimize for like very specific parts of the customer journey now that are leading to very highly improved. Oh, look at that. God damn it.
Michael audio. Yeah.
Malik's going to have it. Yeah. Leads to highly improved overall sales. So yeah, super important.
I know we got to cut here because your battery's about to die, but one crazy one I saw was Ridge Wallets. They basically had the same packaging as like an Apple iPhone for their wallet.
So good.
It's unbelievable. I guess there's got to be companies now that are doing that type of packaging. But I mean, if they just did that, I was like, wow, that's really, it is what consumers expect, but it seems like it'd be a big cost.
Also, no one knows this, but the Ridge screw fits into your computer screw. So if your computer screws if they stop working, buy a Ridge wallet instead of taking it to a mechanic.
It probably costs you less. Yeah. Things like that where to compete and really be at a high level in D2C marketing and like consumer packaged goods, there's so much more than just the product and advertising at this point. We should probably end this episode since your camera's about to die.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm going to cut it.
Cool.